Go ahead and record this. Hey, hi, hello, welcome back, Alexandrian Codex. It's been another week. Still haven't been doing much productive. Same excuses, same reasons. I don't know. I am streaming tonight to decompress, I guess. Out of boredom, too. Yeah, there's that. I have been disassociating hard for like a few days, maybe a week, playing the fuck out of Persona 4 and Persona 5 I just picked up. And I only really got snapped out of it by when I went for groceries today. I came home and actually had a conversation with a couple of people. Oh. I don't know. Everything's kind of terrible right now. Right? Not personally, just politically, socially, economically. It's a hell of a time to be alive. And, the thing I wanted to talk about, the thing that really got me in the mood to decompress a little bit was I was thinking about the idea of community. Now that's such a colonized and whitewashed word. Oh, if it isn't me, yeah. It do be. I was thinking about community today. Yeah, it's a word that's thrown around a lot in America, in the United States, in the leftist circles. You know, community-based activism, or community-based justice, or, you know, things to that effect. And there's a lot of people who live in the city I do, in Seattle, who talk about how valuable and important community-based initiatives and yada 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 are. But this is a very antisocial city. I mean, the Seattle freeze is a famed thing. And, you know, I haven't always lived in cities my entire life. I like them more than the small towns, small cities, rural areas that I've lived in. Oh god, I definitely prefer being in a city for so many reasons, but a conversation I was having today really compounded my awareness of the kind of fear that so many people in cities live with. Fear of, like, everyone and everything around them. And I'm not immune from this. I feel this. Like, when I first moved to Seattle, when I first started taking public transportation around to visit someone I was dating at the time, Cora. When I was first dating Cora before she changed her name, I got panic attacks just riding public transit because I never got panic attacks from being in public or from being around a lot of people before I had moved to Seattle. It's probably something to do with some low-key PTSD or trauma that I haven't dealt with or processed, or there's a lot of things, but I've learned this about myself. I don't like being in crowds. I don't like being around people. Just ironic in that I like being in a city. I don't like being in a crowd, if that distinction makes sense. But, like, I still don't live in fear of people. And this is a very small and weird distinction to make, right? I don't carry a weapon with me. If I get robbed, I get robbed, man. I don't really have anything of value. If somebody breaks into my apartment, it happens. If I die, I die. Like, I can't live my life in fear. And I've had a similar conversation somewhat recently with a very good friend of mine who I met in college. I've talked about him before, Mike. He had served in the military, and he's a lot more cautious. Not unreasonably so. Just if I live my life in fear, if I let fear and anxiety and a desire to protect or shield myself guide me and be my guiding light, if I let that drive me and move me and motivate me, if I do, I'm not going to do anything. I know my fear, I know my anxiety, I know what it does to me. I'm not human at that point. I mean, I technically am, but I'm a terrified shut-in. And today, it really started settling in that Seattle has this reputation for being antisocial. The Seattle Freeze, like I was talking about, so much of that is probably rooted in trauma. So much of that is probably rooted in fear. So much of that is rooted in people moving here without knowing anyone and wanting a community that they don't know how to find and may not exist, and everyone feeling like an outsider. This is a city of outsiders, except for the folks who, are born and raised here, who've been slowly pushed out by the large businesses and totally insane rent in the city. Now, I was born in a very small city in Kentucky. I grew up in small towns and small cities across the United States, mostly in Indiana and Kentucky. So I was brought up with that kind of rural, neighborly stuff. Even you talk to your neighbors, you engage with your town and neighborhood, you know everyone who goes to your church or your school, and you all have potlucks and shit like that. And that's what I grew up with being the norm. But having the kind of anxiety that I apparently do, it always made me uncomfortable. I always felt like an outsider or a pretender. I never really felt genuinely like I belonged in those spaces. Do people pay to live in Washington? Oh, they pay a lot to live in Washington. So that really made me a terrible fit for working as a night desk at the condo that I worked at for a year, this last year. Because, if I saw a homeless person sweeping in the alley, I was expected to call the police on them. If there was a break-in, I was expected to call the police. If there was someone sweeping on the property or urinating on the property, I was supposed to call the police. It's this American knee-jerk that if there's anything making you uncomfortable, call the police and they'll make it go away. It's very gross and very unhealthy, and I don't like it. I come from communities where no, I don't. I come from communities where calling the cops is the normalized thing to do, but I come from a family and an upbringing that makes me empathetic enough to appreciate, no, I'm not going to call the police on this person who hasn't hurt anyone, because their chances of being hurt by the police are very high. I think human lives are more important than property or property damage. Call the police or shoot at whatever yees your hog. Yeah, that's we in blue states here in the United States, or in liberal or leftist circles, mostly liberal circles, this is a thing, like to characterize it being unreasonable that folks in mostly conservative states have firearms and threaten to shoot anyone who steps on their property, da 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 da. I mean, yes, it's extreme, but, like, I want to turn this rain sound down a little bit, but, like, most folks aren't like that. And even if they were, it's not like those predominantly white liberals who don't own guns are any better. They're not gonna shoot you directly, but Karen will sure as hell call the cops on you and have them shoot you. Right? Like, there's so much violence inherent in these societal structures here in the United States. And it's heartbreaking. It's really heartbreaking. It's disturbing and sad and exhausting. Because it's so normalized. It's so normalized. At my job before I left because they weren't taking COVID-19 seriously enough and I didn't feel safe there. They like did not give a shit about the poor people who are homeless or the mentally ill who are homeless and just were using a bench to get a night's sleep, or somebody looking for a place to stay, or somebody just trying to get out of the rain for a few minutes. Like, the humanity and the need and the pain, the empathy of the situation was something that community was entirely deaf to. Oh, you know, I heard so many ignorant and hateful things from some people. Not the entire community. There were good people in that community. But they were not the loudest voices, and they were not the voices in control of the community at the time. And frankly, when I was in that position, if I saw somebody sweeping behind a dumpster in the alley, I didn't call the police. I refused to. Yeah, night desk is a vital service. Yeah, to be fair, it is, because I had residents lock themselves out and things like that. So, you know, I can understand that, but at the same time, it's not a vital enough service for me to put my life on the line for the amount of money that they were willing to pay. Fuck no. Fuck no. Not when unemployment's paying better. At the time, I didn't know that, but, yeah, that was a nice twist. I don't know. It's not this one community was so bad, or this one building was so bad. This is American culture, and it's especially demonstrated here in Seattle. Just how much rich white people value their little utopia of, you know, gated communities or secure condos. Like, they're enclaves. They value their security more than other people's lives, more than other people's humanity, more than other people's needs. That's such a devastating reality to just have to live with. And feel like it's an inflexible, immutable part of the experience of living in this country. Yeah, when I was walking home from the first protest I went to this month. No, it was at the end of last month, but the first protest in the series of ongoing protests. It was raining. It was raining a lot, all day. I had an umbrella, not for the rain, but, you know, it was nice because of the rain. As I was walking home, I passed a homeless guy who was asking if I could spare any cash or any change. And normally, I don't carry cash because there's no reason for me to carry cash in this day and age. But that day I did, in case I needed to buy something, because I sure as fuck didn't have my debit card on me at a fucking protest, because I'm not an idiot. So I gave the guy literally everything I had as far as cash goes, because he needed it more, obviously. And my umbrella, because he needed it more, obviously. And this isn't like a, ooh, look at how good I am. It's not. This just seems like the bare minimum response. If I have something and I'm okay, I am clothed, I am sheltered, I am fed, I have security, financial security for at least the next 6 months. If somebody else doesn't know where their next meal is coming from, or doesn't have a roof over their heads, then yeah, I should be willing to give things up so that they can have something. I don't feel like this is a radical statement or a radical idea or a strange way to view the world. It just seems like the humane position. Don't get me wrong, when I was commuting through downtown on my way to work, when I still lived in the south end of Seattle, well, not really south end, it was more like the International District. When I was commuting up to Fremont, so I would go through downtown every day. No, I did not give everybody who asked for cash, because one, I didn't carry it, and two, there's just too much need for me to meet. But I didn't hate the people. I didn't think poorly of them, and there's so much vitriol surrounding the homelessness crisis in Seattle and in the United States in general. There's so much hateful, disgusting language used against these people. Like, dude, who gives a shit what they're doing with their life? Like, there are multi-millionaires and multi-billionaires out there who have drug habits and abusive relationships worse than, you know, anything I can imagine. And yeah, these conservatives and these liberals and centrists don't think to trash talk them constantly. But God forbid a homeless person use an illicit or controlled substance in order to gain some sort of feeling of security or normalcy or control or joy or peace or quiet or painlessness. People who have addictions are treating themselves. They are treating a pain or a need that isn't being met. They are doing their best to survive. Addiction, more often than not, is a survival mechanism when it's psychological. It's just appalling to me that people who live secure, fortunate, privileged lives constantly talk and look down at people who are so much more vulnerable, so much more at need, so much more in pain than they are, and demonize them and criticize them and say that they're the reason that society is bad or not safe or dirty or whatever else. Like that kind of it's completely self-unaware. You don't get rich and have a society where everyone is wealthy. The rich get rich by depriving that wealth to someone else, by taking that wealth from someone else. And yeah, it's uncomfortable to see firsthand the consequences of capitalism, the consequences of your privilege, the consequences of your class, the consequences of your colonialism, or whatever else. Yeah, it's fucking uncomfortable, and it should be, because the world is fucked up. Yeah, if you seriously have a problem with somebody buying booze with $20, buy them food with $20 instead. And if they get mad, then like, okay, whatever. You can't please everybody. But like honestly, I don't give a shit if they buy booze or like a tiny amount of heroin or anything else. I do not give a shit. I know it's heroin, it's just more fun to say in other ways. I don't give a shit. It's their life. I spend money on video games, and these things which do not these frivolous purchases that do not improve my health or do not make me a healthy person. I order way more takeout than I should. My diet is mostly balanced, but I still cheat on that a lot. I still drink, and I've done plenty of illicit substances in my time. What, I'm not gonna judge. I'm not. There have been times in college, particularly in college, I lived for years mostly off of rice and beans and vitamins. And the rest of the money I had went straight into partying, went straight into drugs and booze. But that's normalized. That's okay because, I was young and in college, and that's just a college kid thing. All right, that's the kind of give me the fucking shrooms, old man. I actually, I may not have talked about this very much before, but I am a nightmare on shrooms. Not like I go psychotic or anything. I just find the stupidest shit funny, or I get incredibly mean. incredibly mean. Yeah. So, shrooms are fine. Probably not for me though. Probably not. LSD. Yes. I have done a lot of acid in my time. I've done a stupid amount of acid. So again, like, I'm not gonna judge, and there have been times in my life where I thought that friends or family of mine were ruining their lives or wasting their time by just partying all the time or doing drugs all the time. And yeah, man, I still kind of feel that way sometimes. There's a fine line. Like, if I care about you and I see you spending a lot of your time doing anything to excess and not taking care of your needs, then I'm going to get uncomfortable with that. And that doesn't just go for alcohol or drugs. That goes for video games. That goes for comics. That goes for just anything to excess. And I'm very guilty of this. This is why we need people to look out for one another. Yeah, I find it funny that college is party time for gringos. That's high school there. Here, it's high school for some people, college for most people. College is work 2 jobs, have a kid, and go to therapy hours. Man, I wish I could have found one job when I was going to college. I tried, and fucking no one would hire me. The job market in the United States, while I've been an adult, has been terrible. Terrible. God, therapy. That sounds nice. Too expensive for my blood. But yeah. So community doesn't just abstractly manifest through good vibes or good intentions or hopes, right? Communities manifest through hard, uncomfortable labor and work, through engaging with elements of our neighborhood, of our city, of our community that we find uncomfortable or alien or strange. You know, it's in creating shared experiences. But in the Middle Ages, a castle is a house, right? A castle is a house. A castle is a house surrounded by walls and fortified, right? Essentially, the keep is just a mansion, is just where a rich person lives, and all the defenses there are to keep them safe from the poor people that they exploit or rich people trying to take away things from them. That kind of structure has become very imbued in the American idea of home ownership, in the very American concept of, yeah, home ownership. Like, in that stupid saying about a man in his home is a king in his castle, or some weird shit like that. Like, these are very old attitudes that, or Huey Long, every man a king. In the United States, making a home is often done in imitation of the wealthiest and most exploitative of our society. We don't typically have models where we lift up and encourage people to copy the behavior of folks who eschew wealth in the interest of community welfare. You know, like here in Seattle, we have a endless housing crisis that is just profiting rich people insanely. We have one of the worst homeless situations in the United States. We have the money to fix it. We absolutely do. We have the real estate and the property to house people. But people don't want to give up their castle. They don't want to give up that security. They don't want to give up this sense of being able to remove themselves from the world, put up walls between them and the rest of the world, and protect themselves from it. Now, that sort of privilege is very American and violently taken for granted. You know, white Americans do not want to have to really, in truth, engage with the society that supports us, in the systems that support us, in the military-industrial complex that enriches us, in the centuries of genocide and slavery that have enriched and empowered us. We are deeply, deeply, deeply in denial. And you know, it's frustrating to see that when it comes to history, it's frustrating to see that when it comes to geopolitics, it's frustrating to see that when it comes to so many things. But when people are just so insistent on throwing up walls and paying people to keep the other people away, it's just endlessly disheartening. Now, when I was a kid, my mom, a few times, had friends or acquaintances, I assume, people in need, women and children, who didn't have a place to stay the night, and she let them stay at our home. Now, I was deeply uncomfortable with it at the time, because I'm not separate from this culture that I'm talking about. I participate in it, and for the longest time, you know, I didn't think to question it. Like, it made me insanely uncomfortable having strangers sleeping in my house. But, like, it's worth the discomfort, right? Somebody not being on the side of the road for a night, somebody not being without shelter for the night. No, what's the point of buying a home in the burbs if all these filthy lower middle class people buy a house next to mine? Yeah, I mean, that's an attitude, right? That's an extension of what I'm talking about. People want their property. They want big backyards. They want to just be able to be away from everyone else. Like, I get it. But it's not realistic, and it's not sustainable, and it's not attainable for most people. Now, you know, if push came to shove, and you're like, well, Alex, would you let a stranger you don't know stay in your place? Not for very long. No. I'd let someone charge their phone, use my bathroom, or like, I'd make them tea, maybe buy them a meal. Would I give them my home? No. No, I don't think I would, because my home consists of a bathroom, a bedroom, a living room, and a kitchen. All in about 300 square feet. No, I don't have a spare bedroom that I could comfortably house someone in. Like, fuck, I'd be uncomfortable living with someone I love in this apartment. This isn't... You know, I don't have a condo that has a guest bed, or a condo that I'm only in half the year. Like, I'm not talking about people with the limited means that I have. I am, in a way, in other parts of the country, absolutely, but the least we can do is not demonize people who are worse off than we are, and try to approach them with humanity and understanding. And yeah, you know, maybe they take you for a ride, maybe they are trying to scam you out of money, or case your place to rob you. Alright, I mean, yeah, you gotta take that risk. There are bad actors out in the world. You want to sleep in the kitchen sink or the shower? You know, I'd recommend the shower between the two, because I still have dirty dishes in there, in the sink in the shower. And it's a little small, the bathtub, but you know, it's not too small. Yeah, I've even had the thought, like, if I have a friend in town, they can't stay at my place because there's nowhere for them to sleep. And I've considered buying a futon or something, but I ain't got the fucking room. I mean, I kinda do, but I don't... they're not really. This isn't like a new characteristic of mine that I just give shit away if asked. Like, I don't know, I was raised Christian, right? And I was raised by compassionate, good Christians. So, charity, and selflessness, and loving thy neighbor were pretty high up on my value system when I was young. And charity I now feel weird about because, well, you know, it shouldn't be an opt-in, opt-out kind of situation to make sure that other people are taken care of. It should be protected by law that other people are taken care of. Hey Alex, can I borrow your stream account? If I knew you, seriously, if I knew you and we were friends, yeah. If we were good IRL friends where I could get retributive if you did anything stupid, yes. I've done it before. Friends and I have shared Steam accounts and other accounts. Like, I've shared so many accounts with friends and exes and things like that. That's not a huge deal to me. I don't know. I'm not a greedy person. And it's not even that. I would give shit away to a fault. Like, I would be in such better financial standing if I didn't just give shit away or spend hundreds or thousands of dollars on gifts for friends and partners. Hundreds and thousands, not hundreds of thousands. I'm gonna make sure I said that correctly because I ain't never seen that much money in my life. So it's very alien to me how cold and removed and turned off to the needs of folks around them so many Americans are. And so many urban folk are. Like, trust me, I get it. I can't even go to the fucking aquarium or take a certain bus line downtown without fake monks trying to get my money. I know, alright? But like, what? At a certain point, so what if they spend the money on something that they said they're not going to? Is it any worse or any better than what I'm gonna be spending money on? Probably not. Like, once you reach a certain comfort level, excessive wealth is inhumane. I'll have you know, all of my partners use my Netflix account, by which I mean my parents' Netflix account. Excuse you. Man admits to piggybacking off of girlfriend's Netflix account, found dead from gunshot next morning. Yeah, I don't know. Just this attitude that if you don't know how to deal with a situation, if you don't know how to deal with a person, if you don't recognize someone, if someone seems out of place, the default behavior that we're expected to do is to call the police. Because supposedly the police protect us, but actually police protect property and police protect wealth above all else, and privilege. What we're doing when white people, wealthy people, privileged people call the police is we are not so much putting a hit out on someone, but like kind of close. Dude, you've got to appreciate the lethality of police in the United States and go like, all right, you know, is a broken window really potentially worth these cops killing a dude? Or maybe they'll just get away with it. When I worked security, I was supposed to call police whenever I saw anything out of place. I won't lie, I caught people trying to break in at least 3 times, didn't report it. Because I caught them, I talked them down, and they left. That's conflict resolution, people. You go, hey man, you don't want to be here. You're on camera right now, and if anything gets broken, I have to report this. This isn't a good place. I'm not going to call the police. I'm not going to report this, but you need to leave. And it fixes it. There don't even need to be cameras. You just have to approach someone on a sympathetic, empathetic level and be like, hey, yeah, capitalism is a fucking vampire. You're trying to survive this hellscape of America. I get it. I'm not doing it. But, like, also, the people in this building made their wealth off of exploiting poor people. So, like, who are the real criminals here, man? Wish big corporations sent some thugs after me. Better than eventually catching corona from your neighbor. Yeah, God, I don't know. When I went out, I live in one of the most leftist and liberal cities in these United States, right? When I went out for groceries this afternoon, half the fucking people, more than half the people on the street didn't have masks. Keep in mind, yesterday, our governor made it so that it is against the law to be in public without a mask. We're just apparently done giving a fuck in this country. We don't care about human lives. We don't care about health. We don't care about massive wealth inequality or systems of exploitation. No, we just want to be comfortable and not bothered. We just want to be left the hell alone. We just want to stay inside, watch Netflix, order Grubhub, and call the police anytime someone's too loud or somebody dares to be somewhere that they're not supposed to be. We don't, in this country, know how to engage with each other like human beings, like healthy human beings, like members of the same species. We are so bent against each other. We are so afraid, so constantly afraid, and just constantly seeking new sources of distraction. And again, I'm not speaking as someone from outside of this phenomenon. I'm speaking as someone who's very much participating in this phenomenon. Wow. Your neighbor worked at a PPE factory. He and 10 of his coworkers got corona from an asshole who had symptoms but didn't want to get tested. Yeah, that happens every fucking day. Like, a lot of these outbreaks are just selfish people or thoughtless people. I saw somebody I'm friends with on Facebook, and yes, I'm still on Facebook because I have old family members, and also, you know, man, it is what it is. You gotta engage with the hyper-tech giants at some level or otherwise be left behind, and I've long since made peace that things are just gonna keep getting more cyberpunk and dystopian, even though I'm fighting it tooth and claw. Yeah. But, friend of mine on there made a post about folks who are spreading COVID-19 or the Rona are essentially the same as a high schooler or college student who refused to wear a condom because they didn't like how it felt, and then gets everybody infected with herpes or HPV or did I just say the same thing twice? I think I did. What was the actual thing they used? Chlamydia. Chlamydia was the actual disease that they mentioned. And, you know, chlamydia is treatable. Very easily treatable, too. Whereas, not wearing a mask is gonna kill people. Maybe not many people, maybe just one. But, like, why? Dude, it's not that hard to breathe. It's uncomfortable. Yeah, my glasses get all foggy. It sucks. I'd still rather do... Bitch, I protested wearing a mask. Which is actually a smart move at that point, but I'm not, like, driving around and complaining about it being uncomfortable. I've gone on, like, day-long marches and still kept my fucking mask on. Yeah, exactly. That person is map waifu, and that's not allowed. You can't put a Rona hit out on map waifu. This is such a fuck up of a year. I mean, it's so easy to say, and we've done this. The discourse around recent events in the United States has for years now been, wow, I can't believe 2016 was so crazy. Wow, I can't believe 2017 was so crazy. Maybe next year. Maybe I can't believe 2018. Da 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 da, etc. 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 And now people are like, oh, it's 2020, and it kind of feels like the world is ending. Well, kids, that's what happens when your society's in decline because of unsustainable capitalism, and there are symptoms of it propping up left and right that your government is doing its damnedest to quash and stamp down and pretend don't exist. It hasn't just been this year, it's been every year for a long time. But the mitigation of all of these terrible and terrifying things has been, well, its efficacy has depleted, let's put it that way. By intentional actions, by unintentional actions, by the mitigation of these things never being sustainable or proper solutions in the first place, by a lot of different things. Yeah. Yeah, I can't believe neo-Nazis have taken over the White House and revoked the Constitution. Maybe 2026 will be our year. Essentially, yeah, like... Even people protesting right now, well-intentioned people, and by people I mean liberals protesting right now, are like, we gotta organize the vote. You know, protesting is okay, but like the real change happens at the ballot box. No, it fucking doesn't. No, it fucking doesn't. Voting doesn't do anything. In the year of our Lord, 2020, Anno Domini 2020, if you can seriously believe in the United States that your vote matters at all, if you don't live in a swing state, or you aren't a member of the Electoral College, you're a fucking idiot. You're just a fucking idiot. Voting helps. And on local elections, oh yeah, voting matters. On federal level, that doesn't though. Like, it really feels like it doesn't. Like, so many social activist, progressive, leftist movements in the 20th century in the United States had such potential for change and enacting real, meaningful, political impact on the society around them. But then one after the other, without fail, bought into the fucking line that we can vote our way out of this. We just have to peacefully protest the way that we're told to, and not really cause civil disobedience or civil disruption. We just, march around where we have a permit to, and then vote blue the next time around, regardless of who the blue candidate is. That's not... It doesn't do anything. It doesn't do anything. I started going off on my mom about this yesterday when I was on the phone with her. I'm like, talking about, like, I appreciate that past generations have been through experiences similar to what we are going through now. Similar. However, they dropped the ball because she was saying, change is going to be slow because, people take a long time to change attitudes and change their minds, and, you can't do this stuff quickly. I'm like, you're wrong. You're just wrong. You can do this quickly. It's called a coup. You can do it very quickly. You burn down a police precinct, and what do you know? Within a month, you have the city talking about abolishing the police. Huh. Wonder what would happen if you just protested for a month. Oh wait, no I don't, because we've seen that. We've seen that not work. We are seeing it not work in different cities. Like, I'm not advocating for violence necessarily, but in the words of Karl von Clausewitz, noted strategist, tactician, and Prussian military genius, war is the continuation of politics by other means. Essentially, when two parties reach a point that compromise cannot be reached, war is the only path forward in order to establish the will of one party over the will of another party. And ultimately, when you are bumping heads with centuries-old establishments like the police of the United States, or capitalism in the United States, with racism in the United States, with patriarchy in the United States, with sexism and bigotry of all shades here in this country, you are not on equal footing. You are not engaging in good faith as equal partners. Compromise is not a solution. It isn't. It isn't a solution. It's short term, makes people comfortable to go back to normal. We're privileged. And then things go back to normal, and the people who are suffering and dying or enslaved or imprisoned under normal continue suffering and dying. Gonna go blue even though the nearest voting booth is 18 kilometers away because minority voter suppression and pay is gonna get docked because America doesn't even have the basic decency of making Election Day a national holiday. Yeah, or even local holidays, or businesses letting people leave for a day instead of just like half an hour to vote. There's so many ways that democracy is just flagrantly disavowed and disadvantaged and kept in the hands of a few privileged elite. It really, democracy is not accessible in this country. Because we don't care. Because fundamentally our values are profitability over all else. Our bottom line over everything else. Yeah. I don't like that I've reached a point where I am consistently speaking so militantly. I don't want to be here. I don't want to believe what I believe. I don't want my attitudes to be as pessimistic and borderline nihilistic. Well, I'm not a nihilist because I care too fucking much, but I don't like that my outlook and my worldview has become so darkened and so bitter. I don't want to be bitter. I want to hope and believe in our political process. I want this country to be a country I can be proud of. I do. It isn't. And it never has been. The way for this country to become great is through many sweeping reforms. Through reparations, for restoring land, property, and wealth to people it has been stolen from, giving control of the political process to a democratized system rather than a kleptocratic one. I mean, but I don't really believe that these things are possible. Like, I'm fighting for them, but I don't know. Like, I don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. I really don't. I'm fairly sure, and I don't mean to dispirit anyone else, but I'm fairly sure this movement and any movement I participate in will be a footnote in a history book if I'm lucky, and they'll talk about, oh yeah, there were socialists back in the early 2000s, but that was just a phase. Because that's all it's ever been in United States history. There's such an effective thought policing here. Yeah, I'm very pro Molotov, frankly, and I have been for a long time, but I would never advocate or encourage anyone else to get there. I don't think it's productive. I really don't think it's productive, because I don't want warfare. I don't want death. I don't want violence. But there is already warfare. There is already death. There is already violence. And this is the important thing to understand. The institutions which make up and sustain our society here in the United States and globally to that extent, because global culture and society has been so affected and so engineered by American society. Non-violent opposition doesn't work, and it doesn't last. We talk about figures like Gandhi and Dr. King in American history books, talking about this is how you revolt. Yeah, these are the good ones. They are not the reason that those movements had any sort of success. The civil rights movement didn't start getting the kind of reforms that they ended up getting until massive rioting after the death of Dr. King. Massive rioting! I mean, smaller than what we're doing now, but massive! Urban warfare is just advanced practices. I mean, kinda, yeah. Like, theory put into action, that is warfare. And there's a monopolization on violence in the United States and in most countries. Right? This is part of the unspoken, unwritten social contract, right? Citizens do not use violence against one another. We empower agents to use power on our behalf, whether those agents be police or military or whatever else. But we don't eschew violence entirely. We just make it somebody else's job to commit violence on our behalf. Yeah, Gandhi's and MLK are just PR department of armed militias that support their ideals. Yeah. Yeah, like... the cognitive dissonance that so many folks in the United States have when they talk about violent protests, or riots, or resistance is astounding. Is absolutely astounding. There's so many of these same people that condemn and demonize protesters are the same that talk about, like, you know, back in, if I had been born in the revolutionary times, I would have, you know, fought off them damn red coats. I almost said redskins. That was a little later on. I don't know. This country's fucking tiring and exhausting, and if I'm being honest, for the better part of the last 2 weeks, I've just been actively disassociating. I've been posting activist stuff, I've been donating, but I haven't been marching. I haven't really been acting because I don't know. The I don't believe in it part of me is really on in rare form. And I'm like, I want this to work. I don't think it will. I don't think it will. I don't think that our local protests are... I don't know, like, there's a lot of signs showing that, like, ooh, well, you know, could get this or could get that, but, like, I just don't believe it. I just don't believe that this country is actually capable of reform. I don't, because I've seen it fought against tooth and nail my entire life. We're in the midst of a crisis where more Americans have died than died in the First World War, and still Medicare for all, or a public healthcare option, not even on the table. I mean, fuck. Universal income isn't on the table. Extended unemployment benefits aren't even on the table. We're doing nothing. Nothing substantial to actually help people. So, you know, hopefully it makes sense where my pessimism is coming from. And I don't want to be a doomer, though I recognize I am often a doomer. I don't believe it. I don't believe that the status quo will compromise. I don't believe that it will make humane choices. And I don't believe that the opposition is militant enough to force it to be. I think, and maybe I should read Volmkrieg on Twitch or YouTube sometime, so we can actually talk about what I'm talking about in context. But when we reach this point where two parties in opposition with differing views, differing agendas, come into conflict, come into contact, and one needs to bend for something to happen, if the protesters, if the resistance to the status quo are not willing or able to engage in a militant or armed or self-preserving way, then the status quo will. And, you know, the status quo, the powers that be, will probably dress it up as if they were the real victims all along. That's what the fucking police have been doing week after week after week lately. Trying to make protesters look like they're the ones who started the violence, when the material evidence clearly shows otherwise. World War I got us to classify chemical weapons as a war crime. 2020 Black Lives Matter protests got the SPD to replace tear gas with mace. Yeah, that's right. That's right. And then our city council put a ban on those kind of crowd control weapons. And I think a judge has put a hold on that ban because, God forbid, the will of the people actually be recognized and realized. Nope, the apparatus with its wonderful checks and balances is here to make sure fucking nothing changes. I mean, for fuck's sake, Washington, D.C. has wanted to be a state for so long. They're not gonna get it. I don't care that Congress has voted to approve D.C. statehood. Not gonna happen. I really doubt it's gonna happen. Because this is a key thing to understand. Our government was not designed to effect change. Our government, its institutions, its checks and balances, its whole structure and hierarchy was not designed to do things. It was designed to not do things. It was designed to do things slowly, do things carefully, do things incrementally, and do things in a way that didn't disenfranchise or disempower those who currently had power. This is the case in many countries. Exposed 20 years from now are gonna theory of the two demons the fuck out of the protests. Theory of two demons. Theory of two demons. I probably know this. Oh, it's Spanish. Theory of two demons is a rhetorical device used in Argentine political discourse to disqualify arguments that appear to morally equate violent political subversion with illegal repressive actions carried out by the state. Huh, interesting. No, I hadn't heard of this. This is very similar to something we do in the US. Since the end of the national reorganization process and the dirty war, when guerrilla groups, mainly left-wing Peronist, Montoneros, and Trotskyists, oh god, can't pronounce this, Ejercito, Ejercito? Revolutionary people, yeah, okay, were persecuted by the armed forces together with law enforcement agencies and paramilitary groups. This term has been used in wide use by human rights movements, political left, and former guerrilla members and supporters. People argued that a national state, even one controlled by a de facto government, cannot be compared to a guerrilla or other subversive group. The difference being precisely that instructions of a national state are supposed to act within the confines of law. Ha! Even when using violence to fight outlaws. Interesting. Very interesting. Had not heard of that. But yeah. Yeah, I mean, don't. I'm a blemish. Yo no comprendo español. Yo no hablo español. That is the best Spanish you're getting out of me because I can't roll my fucking R's and it does not feel right in my mouth. And it's bad because I like Spanish and Portuguese, but Romance languages and you should hear me try to speak French. That's bad. That's worse. Chinese, Mandarin, not Chinese, Cantonese. I can't fucking speak Mandarin, I'm okay at. But continental languages from Europe? Nope. I'm very bad at them. God. Literally nobody gets French. I mean, not even the French get French. Like the Quebecois and, you know, folks from Europe disagree on how to speak French. To be fair, so do we in the English, but they're wrong and we are right. Occitan, that's the word I wanted. So yeah, I've just been trying to cope with things, and yeah, I don't feel great about that, honestly. Like, it doesn't feel good enough. Even when I was protesting, even when I was marching like every other day, that didn't feel good enough either. Like, nothing I do feels good enough, like it's taking enough action, like it's being impactful or participating enough. Because, like, really, I don't believe I got in a big fight with my partner at the time, Cora, when the Women's March happened back in what, 2016, after Trump got elected, or whenever the fuck. She and a bunch of other people went out with their fucking pink hats and were like, yeah, we're participating in democracy. We're showing our discontent and how upset we are. Nothing fucking happened. Nothing fucking happened. They had no demands. They didn't hold any. They didn't do anything to disrupt, like, the means of production, of social reproduction, of logistics, of transit, of political action or inaction. They didn't go to city halls and town halls or the government offices of the federal government of the United States. They did nothing. Nothing meaningful at all. It was just a display. It was just a show. It was just, a thing a bunch of people did one afternoon. That was it. Sure, largest protest in American history in terms of bodies participating, but maybe one of the least politically impactful. Protests don't do shit. They don't, and I really hesitate to believe that there's any way to reform a system or change a system unless you meet force with force. Because historically that has been the case. And, maybe my worldview is antiquated. Maybe I'm wrong. I want to be wrong. Maybe my worldview is too tied up in patriarchal models of power and control and how communities are built and sustained. Maybe I'm too colored and informed by that lens. Right? I hope so. I hope so. I don't believe it. Vergonha? Vergonha. You can just start giving me Spanish curse words, or shame. It means shame. Wow, that's fitting.
Vergonha.
Vergonha. Oh.
Vergonha.
Vergonha. Weird that NHA makes a nya sound, but okay. Just start making the streamer say bad things. This is the danger of just reading things that are in front of me. I'm not quite Ron Burgundy, but I'm close. I don't know. I need to be around hopeful revolutionaries and hopeful activists, because I bring big doomer energy on my own, if left to my own devices. It's like, I got some serious critiques of what we're doing here in Seattle. Like, supposedly tomorrow the mayor's going to try to move in and demolish the barricades around the organized protest. And I mean, that's a flashpoint. She had a fake meeting. Why say a fake meeting? She had a real meeting. People were actually there. I say it was fake because of the people who participated. No real local leaders, no real protesters. There were a bunch of people who are, like, guaranteed plants that have been advocating some very unproductive things, some very useless things. They're like capital L liberals, and they're clueless, and they put themselves in a leadership role even though nobody's following them. I love it. You'll love it. You'll love to see a plant. And OPP is the kids are calling it these days. I'm not sure if OPP stands for other people's property. So that's what it used to stand for, man. Calling somebody else's property is interesting language to go into when we are in the midst of a civil rights movement, but this is language that black people are using to characterize other black people. So maybe not my place to say. And that's a fucking thing about this movement is when I have critiques, when I see things that I'm like, ooh, that's not gonna work, or like, oh, that's a bad idea, or like, maybe that should be differently, or this certain street is a bad place to go, or this might be more effective. This is not a white movement. This is not a movement for white people to be dictating when and where, or how, or anything else. Largely, my role in this moment is to be a body and follow their lead, which I'm okay with. Until their lead is like, yeah, we're occupying this park because that's gonna change things. I'm like, I don't know. I don't think so. I'm very sure that unless you are actively disrupting the ability of a city to go about its day-to-day business, that people won't be uncomfortable enough to address the issues, or inconvenienced enough to address the issues. There were 50,000 Instagram followers in that meeting, and only 3 were from the mayor. Yeah, the meeting was... So, some streamers, Omari Salisbury particularly, he's great streamer, great independent reporter. His politics are... He tries to be very neutral, but yeah, his politics and mine are not the same thing, and that's not a problem. I think Omari is fantastic and has done an amazing service for the movement, for the city, really for everyone, in sharing as much as he has. The protesters wanted Omari and his crew in this meeting so that it could be documented, so that people outside of the meeting could see what was going on. The mayor and the other organizers of this meeting then decided, no, this is a private meeting. You can't stream it. So Omari, because he wanted to try to get some sort of coverage, agreed to that and started live tweeting what was going on. The mayor then caught wind of that and asked him to stop. And it's at this point that it's blatantly clear this was not in the public good. This meeting had nothing to do with meeting with these protesting public, that it was a fucking farce and a show happening behind closed doors. Like, I don't know, just silencing independent media. Well, that's on somebody's fascism bingo card. That's up there, dog. That's not a good look. Not at all a good look. Yeah. And the fact that this movement is... It's not independent of capitalism, and it can't be. Like, it has to sustain itself through the mechanisms of capitalism, at least for the time being, and that makes it very, very hard to sustain, very hard to imagine. Yeah, definite freedom of the press moment there. When the mayor talked about removing protesters, she talked about how important it was to preserve the art. And earlier today, this morning, early morning, some people, unidentified, have taken some of the art away. Have stolen the art. And God, that's such a rich liberal thing to do. The human lives? You know, fuck them. We're taking them out of the park. But the art? Oh, we gotta preserve the art, because this is a queer artistic community. We gotta commodify that shit. People were immediately saying, oh, the art should be in a museum, like it needs to be protected, it needs to be preserved. No, it fucking doesn't! The people do. The people need protecting, and you rich, white, privileged assholes keep missing the goddamn point. It doesn't... Art doesn't need to be in a museum to be impactful and meaningful. Sure, yeah, to educate people, but museums were originally founded as white people showing off how much they owned and how much they had as a display of power and wealth in order to grow their prestige and influence. Notre Dame burns down, bruh, yeah. It's a building, nobody died. Yeah, it sucks, but nobody died. Our value system is so fucked up. The things that we have inherited to believe are valuable and important are not valuable and important. Yeah. Yeah. I'm just so angry and tired. And I know how I'm feeling is a blip compared to the decades and lifetimes of pain and anguish and rage and desperation and depression and hopelessness that so many black people and so many people of color and so many minorities go through in this country. So I feel selfish dwelling on how I'm feeling. I feel selfish being as immobilized and exhausted and drained by how I'm feeling. I don't want pity. I've been so uncomfortable when I've had friends and family who I've tried to talk to about this tell me, well, that's okay, Alex. You know, everybody has limits, and you need to take care of yourself, and you're doing so much already. Am I? Like, yeah, I've marched. Yeah, I've gotten tear gassed a lot. But, like, what if, in a month, nothing's been accomplished? Did I really do a lot? Yeah, I helped keep a few people safe. I gave some homeless people stuff. I gave umbrellas and food to protesters. Yeah, I participated. Yeah, maybe I made a small difference. But unless real systemic change accompanies this, what was the fucking point? Yeah, liberals are very scary. And when I say liberals, I do mean Republicans too. Liberalism is the defining philosophy of both parties in the United States. There are conservative liberals, there are neocons, and there are neo-libs, but they're both liberals. Neoconservatives are a type of liberal, and neoliberals are, you know, you guessed it, also liberals. Haven't run out of chances of getting your kneecaps destroyed? You joke! I think I fractured my kneecaps this week. It wasn't a bad one, but I was working out on my fucking elliptical. That's what this thing is called, right? Let's make sure I'm using the right word. Elliptical. This is a thing. It's like a standing bike. Yes, elliptical. And I had a delivery that was going to be here in about 10 minutes. So I ran from my elliptical after I ran 2 miles to my shower, to my bathroom. There was a coffee table in the way. And I still wasn't used to walking normally yet, so I just slammed my knee into the coffee table and knocked myself over. And that's why I didn't go to the last couple of protests, because my dumbass has been walking around with a limp. Nothing is broken, maybe a slight fracture, just some bruising and a cut, and it's very uncomfortable, but I'm fine. And that was a very humbling moment where I'm like, how many jokes have I made about people getting kneecapped as a kid? This experience is making me very mindful of how insensitive those moments were. And I'm fine, and I'm mobile. I walked a couple of miles today, and I've still been running at least a mile a day. But oh, yep. Yeah, I'm sure I'll get more moments to put myself in harm's way. I Yeah, I don't know. I have frustration with past generations not fixing these fucking problems before my generation got here. And like my mom has been trying for years and years and years and years and years to be active when and where she can in the circles that she's in. She's often worked in finances and insurance, so kind of in the front lines of how a lot of people get taken advantage of by capitalism in the most brutal fashion. And she's been trying to make the system work for people when it by design doesn't, so she often has gotten frustrated and moved on to opportunities and businesses where she feels like she can better serve people. And she's served as a model and an example to me of how to participate in this completely fucked society and still try to help and still care and still, be a benefit despite the system itself. Though the system's still here. And I don't know what my grandparents did or did not do in their generations, and it's admirable that people have done work where they can, how they can. But it hasn't been enough. It clearly hasn't been enough. Yeah. Oh god, I've already been going on for an hour. I'm not drunk. I've had an eighth of a glass of wine, and this is my first glass. I intend to, but not yet. Not yet, Satan. You can be a doomer and eat your cake too. God, I hope so. I hope there will be cake. Yeah. A lot of these protests I felt very iffy about going to because I don't have a social circle here. I don't. I have a few scattered people who I'm friends with or acquaintances with. But that's it. That's really it. I don't feel like I have the kind of social support system I really need to be doing this full time. And I talked about this prior. The fucking Mao quote that a revolution is not a tea party has been in my head a lot. And I've twisted it a little bit in my brain that, a protest is not a social call. Like, being at a protest is actually a great moment to meet people who are like-minded, to organize. But that's just, like, I don't know. It's in the middle of a fucking pandemic. I don't want to be protesting. I don't want to be driven to the point where I'm putting my health at risk. I don't want other people to be too. I don't want me to be using this as an excuse to meet people or find, them ugly anarchists, as my president put it. Which, BT dubs, gotta say, anarchists are probably sexier on average than Republicans, Democrats, or any other kind of centrist or liberal. Just, if we're being fair here, I'm pretty sure it maths out in the other direction. But okay, Donnie. Okay, Donnie boy. And, there were very, 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 very many good-looking people in the protests. Seriously, there are very many attractive, intelligent people protesting. But I didn't want to engage with that because that wasn't the fucking reason I was there. such a catch-22 when I have for months been complaining about, oh, it's so hard to meet people who are like-minded, i.e. progressive and politically active and intelligent and yada 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 yada. And then I'm literally surrounded by them and like, you know, this just isn't the moment. This name me a punk Republican, Donnie. I'll wait. There are a few reformed punks that have gone Republican, I'm sure. Yeah. But hey, if you want to meet the coolest, queerest, hottest people in your community, go protest. I'm not fucking with you. This is not a line to recruit people. I'm legit. I am being very legit on this. But if those are your reasons for going, maybe consider that human life and the sanctity of it, and the preservation of it, should perhaps be a stronger motivating factor than getting P in V, or E in A, or DNA, DNA, etc., than getting your hot sex. Today, I got home from grocery shopping, and earlier in the afternoon, a obviously inebriated young woman asked to use my bathroom. Didn't know who the hell she was, but like, what, am I gonna say no? So I let her in to use the bathroom and charge her phone, but I was about to leave for groceries, and we talked a little bit. I made her tea, but I was mostly like, leave. I did you a neighborly thing and letting you pee, but please get ETFO. And she did. I didn't have to like push her out or anything. It was just awkward. I get back from getting groceries, and it turns out her intoxicated ass. Now, people had been saying she was drunk. Now, that girl was tripping or rolling, based on her behavior. I've been there. This is not a judgment zone. These are not judgments. This is just analysis. She'd been going around telling people who live in my building that she was my girlfriend. Apparently. So, that was a weird thing to come home to. It was my fucking building manager being like, hey, do you know anything about this? I'm like, no. Yeah, that was a highlight of my day. I hope she's alright. Yeah, it seemed out there. Seemed like she might have some other things going on, but like, whatever, dude. People gotta pee. I assume she was a neighbor, actually, because like drunk or rolling people in my building is not super uncommon. Like, oh yeah, she's probably just a drunk neighbor who doesn't think she'll make it home in time. Okay, whatever. Like, I don't know, again, this gets back to what I was opening with. I grew up in a place that if somebody's like, hey, can I use your bathroom? Or, hey, my car broke down outside, can I use your bathroom or use your phone? Now, I grew up in the 90s. You say yes. Like, you know, you help people. Even if you don't completely trust them, even if you're worried that you might be taken advantage of, you still have to get people the benefit of the doubt, otherwise you're gonna live your life in fear. So, that was a fun conversation. I really hope I don't have some neighbors who think I have a crazy girlfriend now, because no, your boy is very single and has been pretty intentional about it. My building manager was like, well, I guess you've got a good new girlfriend now. I'm like, oh god, I hope not. Very Adam Jensen, I never asked for this kind of mood. Can I use your bathroom? Can you wash your hands? Yeah. I don't know. Like, I don't give a shit if how she got in the building, like, because I live in a secure building. Someone had to have let her in or left the door open, and shit happens. No one got hurt. And, sure, there's the potential, well, someone could have gotten hurt. Yeah, you know, there are crazy people out there. A lot of them are in the police force. My building manager was like, you know, if this happens, just call the police. I'm like, yo, but like, I had no reason to believe she didn't live here. And like, even if I did, I didn't say this because I refuse to say this to people in person. I am never calling the police unless my life is in danger. I am never calling the police unless I am seriously in fear for my life. Or in fear for somebody else's life. Because you are calling in a hit squad. You are calling in people who are trained to kill, armed to kill, and able to kill without being punished for it, being held accountable for it. These are the people you are inviting to resolve the situation when you call 911, right? Like shit, in college I had so many drunk and intoxicated or like completely burnt out people hanging out in my apartment or in friends' apartments or houses or whatever else. Like I hung out with a lot of very rave party kind of people who were doing substances to excess to problematic degrees. Like in those communities, violence was not an uncommon thing. It was not something I participated in, but it's not something I'm completely alien to. Like, yeah, I don't want to be around it, and I don't want that to be in my life or in my community, but I'm not so paralyzed by the fear of pain or suffering or discomfort or violence that I'm willing to just throw a jackboot with a gun at the problem and, you know, whistle a happy tune. Yeah. Call the cops on somebody beating his wife, not on some drunk dude pissing on the sidewalk. Yeah, see, that is more in line with a reasonable course of action. However, 40% of police officers in the United States live in households that suffer from domestic abuse. So you got a 4 in 10 chance of sending a domestic abuser to solve a domestic abuse case here, and I'm not making up these statistics. It's not good. It's not good. Not good. Hey, when I talk about abolishing the police, and I have talked about it quite a bit, I don't want there to not be peacekeepers. I want there to be community peacekeepers. I want them to be from the community. I want them to be accountable to the community, accountable for their actions. I want them to be a secondary force. I want the primary force to be social workers, to be negotiators, to be folks trained to talk to and emotionally engage with people in crisis or causing crisis. I don't want solution A number 1 to be a gun. But I do recognize, as I've talked about, in some situations, violence is almost unavoidable. And in those situations, I do believe that a peacekeeping force is helpful. Maybe not necessary. Maybe there are social models where they're not necessary, but like, you know, again, not too sure about that. Not too sure about that. Warrior cultures and roles and peacekeeper roles are present in every society that has a written record. Yeah. I mean, it's by no accident that police commit so much domestic violence. It's the culture that they're brought up in, It's the culture that they are trained in. It's... Yeah, and... Wait, what are you gonna do? Call the cops on a cop? It's not gonna happen. It's not gonna do anything. Yeah, so, you know, fun topics tonight. Fun stuff on my mind, but now I do live in one of the most cyberpunk cities in the US, and I mean cyberpunk in a dystopian kind of way, not in like, ooh, we got cool robots and prostheses. We do have cool prostheses, and we have AI tech venture companies, and we have all kinds of neat shit like that. I mean, like, corporate state kind of cities. That's where I'm at. That is where I call home. And to anyone living in middle America going like, oh, well, you know, at least we don't live in Seattle. Fuck you, your place is worse. I've lived in rural America. It's just as bad there. You just... It's not as clear-cut, but the fucking Walton family owns your town. You just don't know it. At least with our benevolent High Lord Bezos, it's cut and dry. Oh. I'm not an angry drunk. I'm not. I am not a... Not typically. There have been rare occasions where it happened, where people have... One instance where I have assaulted somebody while intoxicated. That was because they were sexually assaulting someone in my apartment at a party I was hosting. So I threw them out of my house. I threw a bottle like this after them. But beyond that, never have I been violent while intoxicated. I've had people tackle me or punch me or try to start fights with me and laugh. I just laugh, apparently, is my defense mechanism. I don't know, man. I don't have self-preservation routines in my head. Those subroutines, those things, they don't exist. Maybe I just have so much constant anxiety that doesn't even register. But seriously, when I got tear gassed, wasn't afraid. Flashbang, wasn't afraid. Was like, okay, I should back up now, and more interested in keeping the people around me safe than anything else. Like, I genuinely think I am wired weirdly in some ways. What, you mean having the last 17 mayors have the last same surname as Shady? Yeah. Yeah, and the comfort of American people of having political dynasties is, you know, not a good place. Not a good feeling. I really do want to emphasize, when I talk about my apparent lack of fear, or lack of concern for helping someone, or inviting someone into my home, or whatever else. My building manager, she was like genuinely concerned for me, saying like, Alex, you know, she could have had a gun. Like, yeah, but like, so could anyone. Like, they could have hurt you. I'm like, yeah, they could have. But like anyone can. And I can't let that kind of fear run my life. I absolutely can't. I know I've talked about this already. It's just, it's been coming up so often in so many different conversations. Believe you me, I would love to dig into bullfight therapy to get somebody's 2 cents on my mental behavior, my mental characteristics and social behavior. Yep. I don't want to pay for that, and I certainly don't want to do that via internet. I'd much rather talk to someone in person. But I don't want to talk to anyone in person right now. Because, this little pandemic. A teeny tiny pandemic. God, it's almost 2 hours. I should cut this. This is the beauty of Islanders. It really is. I can talk about everything and nothing for hours. And the game just keeps the same low pressure pace the entire time. Good shit. It really is. I was thinking about maybe hopping into something else. Honestly, I thought I'd play an hour of Islanders and then hop into something else. I have no idea what. Like I've been saying, I've been playing a lot of Persona, but I don't want to stream that. To be fair though, Persona 5 has been hitting a lot of notes with me. What with the police brutality and the operating outside of the political apparatus in order to attain justice, that sort of stuff. It's quite relevant right now. Humorously enough. Oh, I don't know. One thing I don't love about the West Coast, I love a lot of things about the West Coast, is that my friends are mostly Eastern Time or Central Time, so they're hours and hours separated. So I have to wake up pretty early to hang out with them. And by the time they're all ready to go to sleep when we're playing games or whatever, it's only like 8 or 9 p.m. here. I'm like, I guess we can call it a night. Cool, I'll just be awake alone for the rest of the night. That's not a new thing. Even when I lived in Arizona, Indiana, stuff like that, I still stayed up late and later than all my friends. Fuck, when I used to party, I would just not sleep overnight. Not because of drugs, just because well, sometimes because of drugs, but mostly because I just didn't want the party to end, that kind of thing. I didn't want to say goodnight. Oh, God, I don't want to deal with tomorrow. It's gonna be a shit show. It's gonna be a shit show. If the mayor tries something and I don't want... Seriously, SPD, just keep not tear gassing people. Keep not attacking people, and I can stay at home. This works out for everyone's benefit. You don't do anything, I don't do anything. Protesters keep gaining momentum, everybody wins. Who matters? Being the protesters, they win. But god damn it, if there is police brutality tomorrow, I'm not gonna have a leg to stand on if I don't go immediately protest or immediately try to reoccupy the space, and I don't wanna because I don't believe in the space, but I do believe in their right to hold it, and I do believe in the protesters demonstrating however the fuck they want to demonstrate, and I'm willing to sacrifice my well-being in order to stand alongside them in solidarity, even if I'm not there for the whole let's plant a garden, let's make a commune thing. I am there for them. So pretty please, Jenny, just don't do another needlessly stupid thing. Just please stop. Please stop. But she won't. And the reason that my mayor has been so intense on reoccupying that space was not because the president was bugging her. If anything, that made her back off and proud of it for a short while, but because she has been sued by business owners in the surrounding neighborhood, claiming that damages and yada yada yada. And, well, there's nothing politicians fear more than angry white people with money. Yeah, that's That's good stuff. It's good stuff. Ostensibly and on paper, what Mayor Durkin is supposedly trying to prevent is more violence, but if she were actually interested in preventing violence, she would not have gotten the police, fire department, and public services to move the barricades and allow traffic to flow so near to the occupation. Traffic flowing near the occupation has opened up the door for drive-by shootings, which have happened on a number of occasions. To none of the protesters' great surprise. This is why they weren't interested in it in the first place, and yeah. It's fucking exhausting. Yeah, it's a good day when the country becomes aware of, or the world becomes aware of, like, oh hey, there's some people protesting, doing some neat shit, this is empowering. But it's a bad day when Fox News gets a hold of it and the president gets a hold of it and they start photoshopping and selectively cutting footage of the protest and focusing on mentally ill and homeless people who just happen to be in the vicinity more than the protest itself. Again, for reasons I talked about earlier, is a way to criticize it and demonize it. I am getting so goddamn sick of bored conservatives who have nothing to do because they are mad about still being under quarantine or mad about being laid off their jobs, freaking out about the occupation zone here in Seattle. I'm so tired of them. They're just dumbass internet trolls who don't know what they're on about. It'd be one thing if they had informed opinions and they were still like, yeah, you know, I still don't like it. Sure, that's valid. But they're operating out of a position of malignant ignorance and absolutely refusing to recognize it. And God, I'm so tired of more than half of my country. Let us secede. Let us just dissolve the union and be done with it. This isn't working. Fuck this country. Let's just go our separate ways. I don't... There's the classic American line, well, if you don't love it, leave it. If you don't love this country, leave this country. Won't lie, I'm close. I'm quite close. But, like, where the fuck am I gonna go? And in leaving, doesn't that just empower the people who stay to continue making it a worse place? A streamer and YouTuber I been talking about a lot lately, Alpaca Patrol, has been talking about, like, wanting to move out of the United States and make a commune or join a commune somewhere. I'm like, yeah, I get it. But, like, I don't know, I feel too much of a sense of obligation to people who can't leave the country, to people who will be born into this country, to leave it. Like, yeah, this country sucks, and it's getting worse in a lot of ways. In a lot of ways. It'd be pretty easy to jump the boat and go to some Scandinavian country where enough people speak English that I don't even have to learn their language because I'm American, and of course I wouldn't. I'm joking. If I moved to another country, I would have learned their mother tongue because I'm not a gringo, even though I'm a gringo. Yeah. I don't know. It's just such an exercise of privilege to leave a country like this. Just like it was an exercise of privilege to leave Nazi Germany? Instead of staying and helping other people stay or fighting? I don't know, like, that's a criticism I don't necessarily want to level. And going to Godwin's Law immediately is not a good look, but yeah, that's where my head's at. And it's not from a place of like, well, this is the only place I've ever lived. You know, true, but I've lived in so many different parts of this country, and I've run from different parts of this country because I didn't like what I saw. That I recognize that running somewhere else is only going to have new problems. There are no perfect places. There are no perfect spaces. There are no utopias. There never have been, and maybe, probably, there never will be. But it's our job as participants and members of these communities and members of this species to stay and try to make these places better, try to make them more humane, try to improve these societies, try to, as ye olde founding fathers put it, make a more perfect union, form a more perfect union. Not a perfect union, just a better one, and then a better one, and then a better one. I know it sounds frighteningly close to the Maoist idea of constant revolution, but you know, innovation's a thing, and progress is something we can do and manifest. But progress is not a natural force, and progress won't happen on its own, and if you ignore a problem and use your wealth, use your race, use your sexual orientation to ignore a problem and leave, people are going to continue being hurt by that problem, even if you individually are not. I have had many people I love and care about, who I admire, from the colleges that I've gone to, primarily the first one, Prescott College in Prescott, Arizona, who wanted nothing more than to just start a commune, to live off the grid, to, you know, just go live somewhere and get away from it all, man. Society sucks. Yeah, it does. Because white assholes like you keep leaving it. People who could stay and enact change decide it's just easier, more convenient, more comfortable to take the money they can get, the privilege and resources they can gather, use it to shelter themselves in the same way that people in downtown condos do, and the same people that, you know, Hollywood Hill mansions do, and ignore it. And try to pretend like there's not injustice going on. Pretend like there are not problems going on. And maybe just, you know, focus on yourself. I don't feel like it's radical to want people to care about each other and take care of one another just purely for the fact that they're human beings. But it is radical, and it is weird, and it is abnormal, and it is fucking weird living in this country. Okay, this is the last building. Now I should probably put in a cut here, because it's been 2 hours of me going on about very little. No, I appreciate that. I appreciate, I haven't been as articulate as I would have liked to have been over the last few weeks, that a lot of the content I've been making, a lot of the things I've been saying, a lot of the stuff I've been putting out there has been very wrapped up in emotion, very wrapped up in trauma and stress and anxiety and fear. And you know, I recognize a lot of people, particularly on YouTube, were attracted to this channel for kind of apolitical reasons. I get it. But yeah, it's not sustainable, and it's not me, and never really interested in doing that. I said I was done, but I didn't actually run out of score, so I'm a liar? I didn't actually think I would get more stuff. So when I think about what I want out of a game, because right now I'm thinking about what do I want to play next, or what do I want to do after this? Do I want to keep streaming? If I am streaming, do I want to just keep playing this? Do I want to pivot to something else? I'm thinking I want to pivot to something else, but I don't know what. So I'm thinking about when I do want to play a game. What I'm wanting now and really, in the better part of the last year, is a sense of communication, of participation, of experiencing human connection. Which I know seems like a strange thing to want out of a medium that is predominantly private, predominantly removed from actual human connection. But if video games are art, and I fundamentally believe that they can be and predominantly are, then communication and human contact is integral to the experience. It's integral to the phenomena. And you can get that in ways like playing multiplayer games, where it's upfront in your face. Or you can even have single-player experiences like this that have no narrative, no clear narrative, no story, no nothing, right? But still in the gameplay elements, in the design, you are engaging in play with another person. Through, miles and years, through space and time, you're still engaging in a shared experience with another human being, and that's such an incredible and beautiful thing. That's what makes me excited about video games. Not like, ooh, great graphics, or, gimmicky gameplay mechanics. It's this feeling of connection. It's this feeling of somebody trying to express or share or create something across space and time with me, and that's such a cool thing. But I didn't really answer my question there, and I still have no idea what the fuck I'm going to be doing, but we're about 3 minutes away from 2 hours, so I am going to put a cut in here, and I'm going to throw the overlay up. I don't think I'm going to stop streaming, but I have no idea what I'm going to pivot to, so this has been very, very productive stream of consciousness. Until tomorrow, if you are watching on YouTube. Well, I say tomorrow. Until later, if you're watching on YouTube. I'm going to say toodaloo. Take care. See you then. Bye-bye.